and bucking, the invigorating rigmarole of life on the roads, plying your wares in a western town with a new sense of nomadic urgency. The spirit-smothering motorway monotony, giving way to an hour's worth of inexplicable elation, replenishing your sleep-deprived ego, safe in the understanding that at some point, people will be willing to stand in a dark room and applaud your artistic pursuits. Marvellous stuff altogether. Music.
Music!
Television.
Television!
Music, television. All right. This is the Parlour, providing you a hearty half hour of independent music exploration, the kind of mind-melting, knee-buckling, big-toe-tickling entertainment that DIY dreams are made of. Coming up on tonight's show, we're going to be speaking with, and so watch you from afar, tour manager Graham Smith and the Grand Social head booker John Brereton. As well as that, we have a videotape, VT, industry jargon for videotape, that's previously filmed of Not Squares, as well as an interview with our imbibing barman, Ray Wingnut.
Yeah, Ray Wingnut, music television, baby, yeah!
But before all that, let's clap, clap, clap for Sunken Foal. We got Tim, we got Dunk, Sunken Foal. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having us.
The most recent release was Friday Syndrome Volume 3.
That's the one.
That project's obviously been going on for about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Tell us, how has that project progressed?
Well, it started off 3-4 years ago, just sending emails around to my friends of tunes I was making. They were kind of like not the more serious tunes I was making. They were just kind of slightly more disposable tunes. And I would just send a little riff to friends of mine on a Friday evening just to kind of, get the weekend started or something. And it just progressed from there. People would go, oh, that one's really good, or go, that one's awful, what are you doing? So it would spur me on to start, working on them a bit more. But the main idea of them was that they'd be a bit more disposable than something that I'd worked on really hard composing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Was it nice being able to, I suppose, take the ideas out of your head a bit quicker, having that creativity by committee almost?
That was that was totally the idea, because I was finding myself getting like a bit of a quagmire of certain like synthesizers and stuff that I'd spent ages on, or composing a piece of guitar music. So I had to do something to kind of kickstart the creative process to be a bit quicker, and it really worked out really well.
And all of those releases, they've been on your own label, Countersunk.
Yeah.
But previously you've also done stuff with Planet Moo.
Sure, yeah.
Label. What do you think you learned from having your stuff released on Planet Moo that you would have then taken into Countersunk?
Get on a bigger label. Yeah, I still have a relationship with Mew. I just haven't put anything out because I've been doing so many different fingers and many pies. The quick Friday Syndrome stuff is great because I get to bang it out real quick. But the kind of things I'd like to release on Planet Mew are things that take me like ages to compose because I'm worrying, oh, it's not good enough, that sort of thing. So, but it will come out soon.
And Tim, if I can ask you a bit about the visuals.
Go on.
This is something that, at this point in time, at least, you're very much developing yourself. Like you're adapting the technology to suit what you want to do in terms of visuals.
A kind of visuals brought me from being a consumer of technology to being a creator of technology, and spent years working with people like Dunk, learning loads and developing my own style. And finally, I grew out of it. But we still do the odd gig for old time's sake.
Yep.
And I suppose for yourself, starting out Dunk, I suppose an influence a lot of people across the 90s would have been Power FM. Was that something that affected you?
Yeah, friends of mine were DJs on Power FM in the 90s. And well, actually, they weren't friends at the time, became friends probably because of Power FM, but that was a really big deal in influencing me into getting into techno and electro and hip-hop and different types of music. And I kind of made contacts with the likes of Decal and The Fear and people like that, which I ended up releasing records with these guys through this pirate station, and they'd get me to come up and guest on their show, that sort of stuff.
Having quite a body of work behind you now, do you find that you doubt yourself more, or the creative process is slower?
No, it's really quick. Like I work all the time, and I'm always making tunes. It's trying to get the idea down before the next idea comes is the problem. So there'd be a backlog of, oh, that beat is a good idea, or that melody's good, and then just trying to get that done to move on to the next one. So no, there's never a creative block problem.
Okay.
Not yet.
Tell us about the track you just played for us there.
That was called People From Your Block, or at least a version of it anyway. That was just on an album I put out under the name of Press Charges. It's got a lot of like soul a cappella samples chopped up in it. Well, that version has chopped up ones in it. Yeah. And lots of my various collection of old synthesizers. Cool. And that's available on my website, countersunk.org.
Sweet. That's Sunken Foal. Now we're going to go up here and have another grand old chin stroke. Let's go. But we'll have more from Sunken Foal before the show finishes. As well as that, we have Super Extra Deluxe Edition repackaged reissued bonus track streaming on our website, theparlour.tv/acts, just in case you forget. Anyway, to my left are two men with an intimate knowledge of the temperamental order and controlled chaos of extensive touring, and indeed the hopeful pitch and toss of booking and promotion. Specifically, they are Graham Smith, tour manager with And So I Watch You From Afar, and John Brereton, head booker with the Grand Social. Thanks very much for being on the show, guys.
Thank you.
If I could ask you both about your experiences of touring first off, where have you been? What have you done? Graham?
Me? Well, I started about 10 years ago. So I've always been involved in music, just kind of helping out bands on the road, helping to put on gigs. And then I kind of, just like a lot of people I think in this industry, kind of fell into it. So I started doing photography, and photography kind of ended up being photographer on the road. And I didn't even know what the term tour manager was. I kind of became one. I then kind of learned what that term meant. So it's been 10 years of touring, 6 years of pretty intensive touring with So I Watch You From Afar. Mainly in Europe, but also in America, Russia, China, and UK and Ireland as well. So,
So across the world.
quite extensive, yeah.
And for yourself, John, you've got the musician's perspective on that in a way. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I suppose I've been in band since the early 80s, and then around kind of in the early 90s, mid 90s, released a few albums, got signed to an English label, moved to London for a year, came back, and then we were doing a gig downstairs actually, and we were supporting a band who's one of the members is in your audience, Colin Morris Sunbear, and Morrissey was in the audience, and he seemingly loved us and invited us on a world tour or whatever, and well, not quite a world tour, but we played all over Europe, UK, Britain, and then we went to America with him.
Right. I suppose for both of you, I want to ask, what are the challenges of touring as a tour manager and then indeed as a musician with yourself, John? Graham, what would be the challenges you face as a tour manager?
I think it depends on the band. I'm lucky I tour with a band who have zero egos, or I think for a lot of tour managers, it's almost like a daddy on the road, stopping them partying too much, or kind of keeping their egos in check. And so what's your I actually live with two of them now. They're the nicest guys in the world. So my challenges would be more the logistical side. We're a very slim crew. We don't have, like a lot of bands would have assistants and people. I kind of do everything from the touring side. So my challenges would be definitely the visa side, the kind of, every time you go to a country, the laws kind of change about tax and money, and the kind of boring side basically. And just keeping it organised, keeping everything in check, really.
And John, for yourself, how do you, I suppose, keep sane on the road when you were touring across Europe, touring across America?
I don't remember keeping sane actually. It was
Embrace the insanity. That's another approach.
Yeah, well, our tour manager at the time was up for the party as much as we were. So I suppose it was just, we were like 5 little babies wandering off in different directions. So it was probably what Graham's job is, like just keeping everyone together and keeping it moving and ticking along on time, But
there's certain elements are always the same. There's certain, no matter where you go, you still have your sound checks and you still have your gigs and getting paid and all that goes along with that. But yeah, times are definitely different. It's like, we played in Marrakesh, Morocco. I went on stage and it was still like 40 degrees. It was outdoors. And then about 2 weeks later, went on in Poland and went on stage at 2:30 in the morning. So it's kind of, it's kind of trying to get your head around the changes, especially if you do it in one tour.
For sure.
2 nights before you're in daytime, and then suddenly you're on at 2 in the morning. And
having to adapt to the environment.
Yeah, having to adapt. But that's fun. That's what makes it interesting as well.
I suppose with the Grand Social now, being in charge of an operation like that, I'm thinking it was once put to me by the boogie-eyed Oscar winner Outspan Foster, aka Glenn Hansard from the Frames. He told me that venues are delicate things and that they're always battling to stay relevant. Is there any philosophy or approach you take in booking for the Grand Social?
No, I suppose the one thing is to kind of give all the bands a nice time when they're there. So we've really great sound people and production manager and stuff like that. So it's just to make everyone who's launching their album or doing a gig, it's a special night for them. So it's not you always got to remember that's it's their big event of, maybe not the year, but of their few months, and they've been working hard towards it. And I kind of remember what it was like for me to gig. So I hope that trickles down to that experience for people, So.
And for both of you, I could ask, I suppose, it's always a learn by doing process. You fell into touring, very much the same thing with booking and promotion. In that respect, what would be the best mistakes you've learned from in doing your jobs? Graham?
I guess at the start, not doing quite enough planning at the start. You kind of, as time's gone on, we have a tour coming up, we're about to release a new album, we're about to tour again, and I started planning that in September of last year. And as time goes on, you take longer and longer to plan because it's just so many elements to plan. And at the start, I would leave it to maybe 1 month before tour to plan a 6-week tour, to plan the logistics. And then you're up for 24 hours a day, trying to fill it in. So yeah, taking more time to kind of relax a bit more of it and do a little bit a day.
And for yourself, John?
I suppose the golden rule for me after the week I've just had is never take a booking when you're in IKEA.
Okay. Because it's you're just in a different mindset when you're in IKEA, really. Too much going on, too much Swedish architecture and design.
Yeah. So I've turned off my email on my iPhone, so never again. Okay. Be at the desk in front of the calendar, write it in.
Viewers, take note. Don't go to IKEA. Book gigs. Lads, thanks very much for being on the show.
Cheers.
Ahora vamos a ver un banda fenomenal, Not Squares, en el concierto de Whelans. Pero primero tenemos que una entrevista muy interesante con personas Michael, Keith y Ricky, con mi muchacho favorito, Raimundo Wingnut.
How's it going? I'm Ray Wingnut. I'm in Whelans with Not Squares. How's it going, lads?
Good, very well.
Not Squares, you don't play live that much. Not as much as you used to, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a combination of geography and fatherhood. I'm the geography, he's the father.
And real life. Too much real life stuff happening these days.
Yeah, that's great though. That's brilliant stuff. So listen, tell us about the geography side of things.
Well, I relocated to London a couple of years ago, but it's been quite fun having a bit of space in the house to set up a studio. So we've found it quite easy to be working between two spots, you know, to make this next record.
So is that a weird process? Because Not Squares always struck me as a band that would live in a rehearsal room, and everything would be born out of that. But you say no, there's a lot more to and fro.
That's a good question. I think half the record was born out of the practice room. And that was stuff that we love that kind of energy when we get together, chemistry, you might say. But then we were kind of left with how do we glue these things together? So that was a much more studio developed kind of series of joining songs, sort of a series of segue tracks to bring these other practice room jams together. So
yeah. Different sound, I think, a little from the first record, less frantic and less kind of jammed out, but still just a kind of different way of approaching it. I think it was just as exciting.
Yeah.
To kind of experiment with that kind of way of working.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're enjoying being away from each other, basically?
Yeah, it's good to be able to collaborate but not have to put up with each other's personalities.
That's funny.
Good stuff. And of course, I know the new album is on the way. Can you give us all the details about the new album, please?
New album is called Bolts, which signifies, as I was saying, that sort of bringing together tracks and kind of create something that's more flowing. And it's been released by Strange Brew Records, which is essentially Googie in Galway, who obviously runs the Roisin Dove and is a bit of a sugar daddy there. But he, we have a great relationship there, and we have a great kind of feeling about Galway. I think if our first home almost was Dublin for the first record, I think Galway is our first home for the second one.
Nice. Yeah, that's where we played all the songs.
It's a really nice relationship there, so it just made sense. We sort of popped it in his head, trying to give him the idea that he had the idea, and then he sat on it for a while. He just sort of kept texting us, telling us that he was into it. And we had a Skype meeting a few weeks ago, and then Nyla announced it recently, and really excited, really excited to get it out. The format is vinyl downloads.
Yeah, and it's been designed to run continuously, more or less continuously, the album.
Whoa.
So it makes sense then that you can put it on and just let at least half of it play out at a time.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Yeah, because because when I heard it was coming, I was really hoping that it was going to be pressed onto vinyl, because the first one, you play that one in clubs, you know what I mean? It's just full of bangers, you know what I mean? But you say that this one is much more, are you saying that your sound has changed? Is that, or what can we expect?
I think you can probably expect less of the sort of punk rock sort of stage where we had with the first record. So it's not quite so sharp angled, but more really trying to concentrate on what would Not Squares write if they were writing a pop song, but with disco influence, and still trying to keep that authenticity of live drums and live bass guitars, and putting everything through real synths and that kind of thing. So keeping it real in that way, but really trying to make a very melodic record
And I presume there'll be a pretty busy festival season as well coming up. And like you're no stranger to the old festival side of things. You played Glastonbury and Reading and these kind of places, and you've toured overseas as well. You toured in Japan before.
Yeah, we were in Japan a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
that was great. Yeah, we'll see what comes up. I mean, like he says, we've got a bit of planning to do. I mean, I think we've done pretty well bringing some of the tracks, although they're very kind of carefully produced in the studio. We have been playing live for a while, and that kind of live energy that we try to have on stage is still there, and that there's sections of the song that are still in flux. So when we play live, they'll be kind of different every night, and so trying to kind of plan that chaos enough to fit into a festival set is something that we need to give a bit of thought to.
Not a bother. I'm sure you'll have no problem bringing the chaos, lads. You know what I mean?
We're excited
Live tonight,
to give it a go.
And new album on the way. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Great time to be talking to you. Not Squares. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There you go. As you can tell by their three-man assembly, they could be circles, maybe even triangles, but they are most definitely not squares. They'll love that one, Ray, won't they?
They will.
They'll love that. How are you getting on?
Very good, man. Very good. Yeah, Graham Smith is in the house, like, you know what I mean? I think what this guy's done is just unbelievable. I think he's an exemplary kind of dude, you know what I mean? I think and so I watch it from afar, a DIY band through India, Russia, China, these kind of places, and I think no small amount of that is due to his work, you know, and his energy and his professionalism. So if you're talking about a punk rocker and a professional combined into something successful and brilliant, I think, yeah, great dude. And then, of course, like, I mean, you know, it's full of lovely people all over the Parlour, you know, I mean, I'm giving them some beer, I've been getting to know them, you know, I've been getting cozy with them and stuff like that. Sunken Foal is in the house. Absolutely unbelievable. Again, does stuff for the right way, the right reasons, and does it successfully, internationally, and never compromises. So, yeah, another very inspirational evening here in the Parlour.
Thank you very much for watching. It's been a delight, as always. Here's Sunken Foal, Cuddy's advice.